So welcome to the Alumni Career Connections Talk with Alan Stein. He is our wonderful alumnus guest. I am very happy to introduce him. So what we'll do, Alan, if you could just introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about how you got to where you are now, and then we'll open it up to questions. So if you all have any questions for Alan, we'll let you ask. So kick it off, Alan.
Sounds good. So thank you very much for having me here. I graduated a very long time ago, 1995, so 26 years ago. I actually have not been back to Binghamton since. I've wanted to go, and just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. I live in Brooklyn, New York now, so about 4 hours away. My career from Binghamton, I was a psychology major. I thought I was going to get a PhD in clinical psychology. I actually got accepted into a clinical psych program at University of Delaware, went there for a semester, and then dropped out after realizing that I was not that excited about it. Moved in with my folks in Long Island, which was lovely. They actually charged me rent because they wanted to motivate me not to stay at home for too long. And I was like, there's plenty of motivation for me to leave, but my mom insisted on charging me rent. It wasn't too much, but it was enough to still make me remember it. And then I wound up temping at a couple different places. I got an offer simultaneously to work for the NBA, National Basketball Association, or work for an investment bank as an equity analyst. And I chose the latter, even though I was passionate about sports. I chose slightly more money than and what I thought would be a higher career path in equity research. I worked in equity research for about 4 years, working at a few different banks, then moved into venture capital. After that, I read the book Moneyball by Michael Lewis, and I was intrigued by sports analytics and was a big sports fan. And I decided to pursue a career in sports analytics. I worked for a couple different baseball teams, New York Mets minor league affiliate, Toronto Blue Jays minor league affiliate. Realized that the lifestyle was not what I was seeking and the pay was not that good. So returned to business school, went to Columbia Business School. And from there, wanted to stay in the New York area and was interested in marketing and operations. And it was a good recruiting year when I graduated in 2005 and had a few different options. And Amex was my top choice, American Express, and joined American Express in 2005. I had, I think, 4 different roles over my 6 years at Amex. A couple of the notable, interesting roles was I worked on the largest card in the Amex portfolio at the time. It was a Costco card. Now it's a Citibank Costco card, but it used to be the Amex Costco card. So tried to acquire new card members at the 400 different Costco locations across the country. And another role that I had there, which was really interesting, was managing customer retention. So when people are calling to cancel their credit card, they would get to my team, and then we would decide who we wanted to keep, how much we want to pay to keep them, what sort of marketing message we'd want to do. So not only that we save them, but then also keep them as engaged customers. I was at Amex for 6 years. I liked it. I learned how to lead teams. It didn't move as fast as I would like. And I was very intrigued by moving into the tech sector. So applied for a couple different roles, applied to Google several times. Most of the time, my resume just went into a black hole. But through some networking, actually, coincidentally, someone who went to Binghamton 5 years before me, got in contact with him. He liked my background, and he put me in as a referral. And 11 interviews later, I got hired by Google. I joined Google to lead a global product operations and escalation management team. I was at Google for about 6 years. I worked for 7 different bosses on 4 different teams while I was at Google. And some of the cool jobs I had there were working on YouTube, managing what we call the masthead advertising campaign. So when you go to YouTube, it's like a big sponsorship ad that shows up. on YouTube that usually advertisers spend a big amount of money for. Also worked on some building out several teams as well. And one of my biggest accomplishments there was receiving accolades for a Great Manager Award. So that's given out to about 25 people a year out of about 9,000 managers. I don't think they still have that award there anymore. Not that they don't have great managers. I just think that they stopped the program. But I won that in 2015 or 16. I left Google in 2016 to explore a couple of different startup opportunities, both in the New York area. One was Datadog, which is now a public company. And another one was this company called Endello, which was helping to grow and develop technologists in sub-Saharan Africa. Neither company was the right fit for me, so I returned to big tech, went to Facebook in 2017. I was there leading the data management operations team, so making sure that the data quality that we have about our advertisers was of high quality. It wasn't, it still isn't, but that was my role there. After about a year and a half there, my manager who had hired me there wound up going to Tableau. And Tableau, for those that don't know, is a data visualization software. It's kind of like Excel graphing on steroids. I joined Tableau in April of 2019, where I led a team of escalation manager. So basically, when big customers are grouchy because they're not getting the support that they need and threaten to either leave Tableau for a competitor or call our CEO or both of those situations, they would come to my team, and my team would kind of talk them off the cliff, figure out what's going on from a technical perspective, work to resolve the issue, and clearly communicate internally and externally what's going on with the company. Did that role for about a year. 2 months into my stint at Tableau, Salesforce acquired us, so that was very fortuitous, and Salesforce is a great company, really excited about that. Now my role has changed after about a year in, where I lead global programs and operations for the tech support organization. So making sure that when customers call our tech support, or actually file a case, often via email, to our tech support organization, that we are resolving those issues quickly, consistently, delighting the customer in terms of satisfaction, and doing it in an efficient manner. So I lead a 15-person team now at Salesforce, supporting a 500-person organization, the tech support organization. And my team is global. I'm still based in Brooklyn, New York. I've been in Brooklyn the last 16 years, in the same house in Park Slope. And on a personal note, I am sharing the house with my 3 kids, 2 dogs, 2 birds, and 1 wife. So you may see some of those come in. The 2 dogs are here right now. They just came in over here. There's Tootsie. Hey, Tootsie, say hello. And then Coco's over there. That is me. So hopefully that was a good overview, and happy to take questions or talk about whatever. Or am I supposed to say anything else?
No, we can open up to questions. So anyone that's on, feel free to ask away.
Hi there, Alan. I'm Sam.
Sam.
I just wanted to ask a little bit about your career path is really interesting. Like just sort of how you've sort of developed these different interests and then like very actively pursued them and been able to kind of bring all your different experiences together towards sort of a specialty. But I wanted to know a little bit more about that time in between living with the parents in Long Island and getting the equity analyst job. Were some of the temp jobs you did, any of them like speak to you and like pull you towards a direction, or was it more of a, I just know I don't want to be doing this anymore? Can you just speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, so after I dropped out of my grad school, my parents were concerned and they're like, dude, you got to get a job. My dad had a connection at some temp agency. that their company used to hire temps from, and they were just looking for someone who's responsible and had a decent brain on their head on their shoulders. I did several different temp jobs, sometimes like 1 week in a stint, sometimes up to like 4 or 8 weeks. I did one at some pharmaceutical company, basically just filing things in manila folders, getting a lot of paper cuts. At the NBA, I was essentially just scheduling the pregame schedules for the preseason schedule for the following year. So just calling up some of the front offices and seeing about arena availabilities for different dates. At the equity research place where I was eventually hired at, I was doing everything from expense reports to doing some light financial modeling. There were probably a couple other places that I temped at also, like they just kind of set you up with different places. Those are the only three that I recall. And then the NBA and the investment bank were both interested in temp to perm, and they both came up about the same time period. I interviewed at both, and I got opportunities at both. One offer was for $29,000 at the NBA, and one was $30,000 at the equity shop, and it was only $1,000 difference. But the long-term career potential, I thought the equity analyst spot would be more appealing. So that's what I did.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, Alan. My name is Zerez. I'm a junior financial economics student at Binghamton while simultaneously acting as a combat arms soldier in the New York Army National Guard. Surrounding your expertise in data science in particular, in 2021, do you see a master's in computer science, stats, or data science actually being necessary, either at a target university or at a place, elsewhere? Or could you pull off those qualifications necessary for a data scientist position with Coursera's and proven wins in competitions?
Good question and pretty impressive track record. Thanks for your service. I don't think a degree is necessarily needed. I think it benefits you, especially early on in your career, to give you a little bit of stature and credibility there. But if you can learn enough on your own through some free online courses, and you can talk the game, and you can I think you can probably do it without the specific degree. Getting the degree is often beneficial as well. It expands your network. From a resume perspective, it may look a little bit more impressive, but you can do this stuff without the things on your resume. I was a psych major at Binghamton, and I got into some good investment banks, into venture capital companies, even though I worked alongside with people that were coming out of Wharton from a business perspective, or Harvard, like economics degrees. I demonstrated with my capabilities that I was able to figure it out. So I think if you network and you demonstrate your capabilities, the degree is less important.
Thank you for your insight.
Sure.
Alan, we had a question come through the chat from Blaze. In your history with leadership roles, what do you think makes a good leader, and how to lead effectively?
So good leaders, I find, listen more than they talk. I think they empower their people. They know how to appropriately delegate. They are aware of their weaknesses or vulnerabilities, and then try to complement those with other folks. Like for me, for instance, I am very analytically driven, and I'm very hard charging, and I know that doesn't work for everybody. So I have some people on my team that kind of have more soft skills and can communicate more effectively and collaboratively. And when I want to make a change, I may tag in like Rachel to help me nail this. So because she's more effective at those soft skills and getting people on board. Whereas I'm like, hey, we got to change our productivity of our engineers from 8 cases per week to 10 cases per week by the end of the year. And I'm like, let's just do it. But that doesn't really work. So knowing where my strengths are, I've worked for technical organizations since like 2011. I'm not very technical myself. I'm comfortable around it, but I don't know how to code. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a computer scientist. So I surround myself with those individuals, and I'm not afraid to admit when I don't know the answer. And also, I solicit a lot of feedback. So a lot of the organizations I work at have worked out recently do have employee surveys, and I do look at that feedback very closely and try to see where my gaps are and where my opportunities are. So yeah, I think open to feedback, listening more than talking, complementing your team with folks that cover up some of your mistakes, and also hire well, and also performance manage well. So I don't like firing people or terminating people, but it's unfair to the strong performers on my team if I have individuals on the team that are not carrying their weight. That means the good people are doing more effort, and they're kind of getting punished for that because other people aren't carrying their weight. So I'm not hesitant to turn over the team. It's not something I love about the job, but it's something that is necessary, and I think gains followership from the strong performers.
Hi, Alan. Just want to say thank you for coming to speak with us today. I just had a question. My name is Jason. I'm an MBA student here at Binghamton. I'm studying marketing at MIS, and I've actually been looking at a lot of non-technical roles at tech companies recently. So kind of where you find yourself when you find yourself in your career. I just want to know what are some like attributes, skills, or things that catch your eye on a lot of resumes? Because you also said you've been the head of a lot of teams, so I assume you've done a lot of hiring. So what are things you look for in a resume, either hard skills, technical, or soft?
Driving quantitative impact. So not just saying that I collaborated with the global team to launch this new initiative, but I collaborated with the global team and we launched this initiative that saved the company 40% of expenses, or to be able to quantify your impact is something that's important for me to see. People that are like most folks on this call are probably more junior in their tenure, but if you do have a good GPA while you're in undergrad, I like to see that. I like to look at the majors that folks do, like more quantitative majors are more appealing to me, but I also don't discriminate based on that. I was a psych major. I've hired people on my team that were lit majors that are really good. I've hired people from community colleges. I've hired people that don't even have a degree. And have become really strong performers. They kind of have to stand out some other way. So they were often referred to me by people that I respect. And then I did some due diligence there. Let's say, I look at a lot of resumes and I interview a lot of people. So I don't look at junior resumes so often. Most of the people that I hire are like 5 to 20 years out of school, generally, but I like to see action verbs on there. I like to see clarity on the resume. Like I like to see consistency. I don't like to see typos. Like I'm not looking for those, but if I notice a typo, looking at like I look at a resume somewhere between 20 seconds and a minute, probably most likely. And if I notice a typo there, I haven't thrown resumes away, but it definitely, I definitely noticed the typos. And so there are some people that will just toss the resume based on a typo or an inaccuracy or something like that. And also don't lie in the resume. So if you didn't complete your MBA, say MBA expected graduation date that date, because we have made offers to people, and then upon background check before the offer is completed, we found inaccuracies on the resume and we have retracted offers. So do not lie in your resume. Not every company will figure it out, but a lot of them will. And it doesn't, like, yeah, I've had to retract probably 3 offers in my career that I can recall, that I was upset about because I really liked the candidate. But then we found out that they did not complete their degree, or they were actually a contractor, not a full-time employee, and they misled us on the resume. And they didn't discuss that. So don't lie. And also, resumes are a required thing, but the more effective method I always find is network. Like if I look back at 20 different companies I've worked for, I think 18 of them I got through networking.
Ooh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, how do you describe the cultural and like corporate differences in working in the financial services and tech? Like, how would you describe the lifestyle differences between the two in your experience?
Like I can wear jeans and a t-shirt and hoodie and a hat at the tech companies, and no problem with that whatsoever. Rather than business casual or suits or what have you. It's a lot more flexible with work-life balance. I think doesn't mean I work less, but it's more flexible with working where and when I want, especially now with COVID. It was very easy to move from pre-COVID versus post-COVID at Salesforce. Whereas I have friends who work at Goldman and now they're going in a couple days a week, which I don't really understand why they need to, but that's what Goldman wants them to do. The tech companies, I have found pretend to care more about the people and their career development, and I think legitimately do care and offer those opportunities, whereas in finance you're more, I find, often a cog in the wheel. I didn't feel like that at American Express per se, but at investment banks. But like different companies have different cultures. So like Google has a different culture than Amazon. So you can't just say that they all have the same culture, although those cultures are more similar than Google and Morgan Stanley. So I like the culture at the tech companies a lot more. It's more laid back, it's more chill, it's more come as you are. But there are politics there as well. Like in the yeah. So it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but I definitely like the culture a lot more. I get to wear, well, actually, I haven't even worn jeans since COVID. It's more like sweats and shorts. So jeans are dress up for me now. But and you get a lot more swag. So I think I have a Salesforce shirt here, and I got lots of swag all over the place. You get a lot more swag in the tech places.
Of course, no, it seems like the tech vibe is sort of setting the cultural standard across the board to where even the financial services sort of has to give in to those employee expectations. But thank you.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, but I think I learned a lot of good skills in the financial sector as well that I could take care. So, but yeah, and there's definitely good career paths there as well. But given the choice, I'm much happier in the tech space.
Alan, we have another question in the chat. It's from Sonali. I was wondering if you had any advice on how to get more clear on understanding what our strengths are and being able to articulate them.
Clear on what? Understanding what your
strengths
strengths are and being able to articulate them. it's kind of hard early in your career what your strengths are, I think. Maybe understand what your strengths are in terms of what other people tell you your strengths are. Either like maybe your strengths, but maybe people look to you for being really good with analytics on a project, or it's kind of hard to, I, I don't know what your particular strengths are, but with my strengths, I'm very forward with them. I'm like, hey, I'm an analytics person. I'm a people leader. I'm good cross-functionally, like working with cross-functional stakeholders and driving alignment. So in terms of identifying them, like get more clear on understanding what our strengths are. That like there's some surveys that you can take online. I don't know which ones off the top of my head. I think there's Strength Finder and there's like I think What Color Is My Parachute? It probably has some good stuff in there. And in terms of articulating them, I would not just say that I'm good analytically, but say I'm good analytically because I've done like X, Y, and Z and delivered these results, or I'm really good at communicating effectively. If you say you're good at communicating effectively, make sure that you're communicating that effectively, because otherwise that would be a big red flag. And also, I think at early in your stage in your career, I think flexibility, like you may not know what your strengths are. You may not know what drives you at this point. I've changed my career several times. I think there's a common thread of what I've done in my career, but I probably didn't realize that until like 5 or 6 roles into my career. So you may not know what your strengths are right now, but you might know, like, but if you know what you enjoy doing and what you find yourself doing in your free time, and or what comes naturally to you, those are some good indicators of what your strengths might be. Like things that energize you, that you're excited about, that you do not because people tell you to do, but because you want to do it.
Alan, have you conducted or been on the receiving end of a technical interview? And if so, how do you describe that experience? And what do you think employers are looking for in that experience? Would you say that the behavioral interview is, the main entree and the technical is sort of the cherry on top that gauges technical abilities? But at the end of the day, the person's holistic overall attitude matters more? Or like, how would you elaborate on that?
I don't do technical interviews. Those are for the engineering side. I do analytical based interviewing. So some of the questions that I've asked people before when I was at Google, like it wasn't a technical question, but it was case-based question. I asked people, what do you think about Google charging for $5 per month for Gmail? How much revenue do you think we could derive by that? What are the pros and cons of going from free to a paid service for Gmail? Besides the revenue, what other benefits are there? What are the negatives of doing that? So that's not a technical interview, but it is an analytical interview. I've been asked a question before, how many lawnmowers are sold in the US every year? And figuring out how to break that problem down. So in terms of technical interviews, I don't do those. I've never gone through one. There's lots of stuff online. There's lots of books online how to prepare for it. But that's out of my scope. Like usually in the tech organizations, there's a sales track and there's an engineering track. And I've always been in the sales orgs. Even though I'm in operations, I still fall within the sales org. So I do not hire developers or engineers. I respect what they do, but I have no capability of assessing how good they are.
Of course, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alan, one of the career clusters that we have within the Fleischman Center is business and entrepreneurship, and you definitely get kind of lumped in there for multiple reasons, but can you talk a little bit about your decision to start your own organization and what maybe is scary about that, or what resources you took advantage of to make that happen?
Yeah, so in July of last summer, I started a company called Kadima Career Accelerator. And the intent was to help underrepresented groups, people that just don't have the means or the resources of how to grow and develop their careers, specifically in the tech space, of doing that. And I launched in July, ramped up. I had about 30 customers by December. I wound up pausing it though in December. And the reason I paused it is because I was doing that. I was doing my day job at Salesforce. I wound up working like 80 plus hours a week between the two jobs, and not having any time down on the weekends and nights. So it was too much for me. And also, so I still do some career coaching on the side, but just one-off basis with a few clients. But maybe at some point I'll go back and try to scale up the program. What led me to go into that is a lot of these companies are talking about increasing their diversity of hiring and representation at the companies. And as a hiring manager, I've been very frustrated with the lack of diversity of candidates that I see. And I don't think we're working hard enough, not just at Salesforce. I think Salesforce does a better job than average, but I still see very similar sort of candidates for roles that I look for. So I think there's a lot of things that can be done on improving diversity, inclusion, equality across the organization. I don't think we're doing the right things in a lot of ways. We're doing some good things, but not everything that I would do. So I made the decision to start it in the summer. I kind of let my day job I did the bare minimum with it, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So it became too tough to manage both of them. And Salesforce pays me well, and I have a lot of invested equity there. So I decided of the two, Kadima would be paused. But I did help get a few people jobs. I'm still in contact with them, and I'm still doing some coaching on the side.
I guess I have another question. Just as most of us are probably either juniors, seniors, looking to graduate soon. I guess what are some skill gaps that you see, I guess, in workers that you've been around, or skills that we can pick up now and develop over the course of our career, as you've had several jobs and you've probably seen multiple types of workers?
Analytical skills are always really important. How you break down a problem, how you think about how to solve the problem. Like right now, one business problem I'm dealing with is we're trying to increase our customer satisfaction from 4.25 on a 5-point scale to 4.75 by the end of the year. So how do you break that down? How do you look at all the data? How do you look at all the customer input, the engineers that are handling those cases? How do you come up with a plan to address it? So those analytical skills are critical. The cross-functional collaboration and communication skills are huge. Having the confidence to reach out to people and introduce yourself and learn what they're working on and what goals they have. So understanding how the business works. It's amazing how few people really understand how we make money as a company. And I've always thought about that myself, of like, if you're going to join a company, know how they're making money, know how they are paying your paycheck, and know what those drivers are, know what the competition is. And I think like curiosity is good. People coming up with ideas and suggesting ideas of like, hey, I see we're doing it like this. Did we ever think about doing it like that? And coming up with some innovative ideas, an initiative, and saying, hey, I see we have this problem that we have a really hard time solving data connectivity issues. And it's growing 20% quarter over quarter. And I thought maybe I can build out a program to up-level the quality of engineering training. Would that be something that's valuable to the organization? And almost always I say yes. Google used to call it like 20% projects, but people that take initiative are good. And also, I think another skill is understand the impact that you're delivering. So if you're going to roll out a new program or business, you can't just say that it was rolled out successfully. How do you know it was successful? Maybe I think it was poorly done. Maybe you think it was well done. What are you going to measure to understand if your new sales methodology is working? Maybe previously the customers accepted the offer 12% of the time, and now they're accepting it 25% of the time. So then you can come back to me and say, yeah, 1 out of 4 are accepting this new offer versus before it was 12%. It's like, okay, yeah, what you're doing makes sense. So backing things with data and facts, and people that are open to feedback and solicit feedback, that want that feedback and also have a desire to excel, and really listen to the feedback, yeah, and address the feedback. Not that all feedback is, you may not agree with all feedback, so I'm not saying every piece of feedback that you get you should do, but you should definitely consider it every piece of feedback that you receive and make a conscious decision of, do I agree with this? And is this something that people are perceiving that maybe I am too shy or not, don't follow through on what I say I'm doing? And then put in measures to address that feedback.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Alan, if one of us were to pursue a career at Salesforce in the sales, part of the business, for example, what hard skills would you say that you'd look for in an employee? Is it fair to say that a proficiency in R or Python is necessary? Is there anything beyond that I may be overlooking? What would you look for?
For sales roles, I don't think you need proficiency in any of those. I think you need proficiency in being able to understand what the customer wants, understand what the suite of offerings are, and figuring out how to match the customer's needs. So I don't think you need any of those skills on the sales side. Yeah. So, but I do think in general, having those analytical skills, I wish I knew R, I wish I knew Python, I wish I knew Tableau a hell of a lot better than I do. I don't know it that well, even though I work at the company. I'm damn good with spreadsheets and I can analyze a shit ton of data very quickly. I just can't use some of the cool tools that have been developed. I'm an old dog who can be taught new tricks. I just haven't dedicated the time to do it. But I don't think you need R or Python to be a salesperson at all.
No, thank you. I just wasn't sure. As far as like within a career in analytics or even at Salesforce, some positions seem to either require it, others don't. But thank you.
Yeah, sure. I see Sonali has a question here. Routines or practices that I've found to be helpful. One thing is like whatever method you do to like keep track of your to-do list, make sure you have some method to do so. So I use Google Keep and I use my Gmail inbox basically to do that. But your life will get more complex as you get a job and as you have a family and as you have other things. So figure out what method works well for you. If you don't have a good method, a book that I recommend, and I can put it in here, is I think it's called Getting Things Done by David Allen. That's a great book. He's a little anal with his approach, but I've taken some of those pieces of advice, and that's really effective. Other routines that I've taken to, especially with COVID, is I try to get out of my house. So do something physical. I I work out in the morning on an exercise bike where I also have my laptop. So I kill two birds with one stone. So I'm either taking care of work or personal stuff while I'm riding the bike for an hour. And then I also try to get outside the house for an hour and I go to the park for a walk. That's what and I listen to a podcast. I listen to podcasts, which I really enjoy. And some of those podcasts that I find helpful, and it doesn't need to be helpful per se, but I like Tim Ferriss. He wrote like the 4-Hour Work Week, but he really likes to dig into how people are good at what they do. I like Adam Grant's podcast. I can put some of the names in here. I like Brene Brown's podcast. I listen to politics stuff. I don't know if that's good for me. And then how do I, and Tim Ferriss. And then do I do certain things to stay focused when completing things? Like sometimes I'm in a zone and I'm working on things and I just work on things and I'll put music on in the background. And sometimes I get distracted. So when I'm focused, I try to stay in that zone. People say it's like you're in the flow as long as possible. And then when I'm distracted, I'll realize that I'm not that productive at the time. So, but I have a lot of routines that I do, and the specific routine is not important. I think having a routine is important. Whatever your routine is.
Alan, were there any student organizations that you were part of while you were at Binghamton that helped maybe shape your idea of getting into the different spaces you wanted to get into?
No. I was part of the frat scene at the time, and like I made a lot of good friends through that. I drank a lot, not that you guys are supposed to be drinking, and smoked a lot, not that you guys are supposed to be smoking. I took part of some internships that I don't know if they still have those, but I used to get credit for doing internships. I was the team statistician for the Binghamton Rangers. I don't think they're the Rangers anymore, but I don't even know if there's a hockey team up there in Binghamton, but there was one. And there was an internship where I was the team statistician for the Binghamton Rangers, which was really cool. I was doing their stats on Lotus 123, which was a predecessor to Excel at the time, and that taught me a lot of skills. And I was doing all the stats for the hockey team. I also got involved with some graduate level labs. I wanted to be a psych major, so I worked with a lot of the graduate school in psychology and got involved in some of the labs and learned what it was to be a PhD student in psychology. So I thought that's what I wanted to do. Turned out I didn't, but it looked good from Binghamton's standpoint. And I also worked, which I liked. I was a tour guide for Binghamton, and I was a co-rec ref. I don't know if they still have co-rec or football. I was a commissioner too of co-rec. I like doing that. And I worked at it's called Smart Play USA. I don't know if it's still around, but it's kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese. That's what I did outside of the classroom. But I pretty much enjoyed myself and made a lot of good friends. And I'm like some of my best friends in my life are from Binghamton.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? We got time for a couple more.
I guess I just have one question. What would be one piece of advice that you either received or you've kind of given to people that you feel like has kind of guided you? Maybe not throughout your whole life, but just for a portion or whatnot.
Yeah. So my Uncle Howard told me to cut my losses. So kind of like the sunk cost fallacy. If you've invested a shit ton of effort and time in something, but you're no longer interested, don't keep pursuing that if you're no longer interested and you're convinced that you shouldn't be doing that. That's sunk cost fallacy. Like, you already put that effort in. So when I dropped out of the psych program, I spent my whole undergrad being a psych major and taking all those extra psych classes and putting so much effort into applying to 15 graduate programs, getting rejected to 14, only get accepted to 1. And even though I got accepted there and they were paying me a stipend to go there, I wasn't digging it. And I was like, I'm done. And I thought about it. It wasn't a rash decision, but once I made that decision, no looking back, no regrets. I definitely have regrets in my life, and the regrets often occur when I don't think about things. But if you think through things, yeah, cut your losses. Don't worry about what you've done in the past. Worry about how much effort you have to do going forward, and is it worth it?
Thank you once again.
Sure. And someone asked about my contact information, so you guys can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think there's a few Alan Steins there, but if you look at Alan Stein Binghamton, Salesforce, Google, you'll find me. And I think my LinkedIn is like LinkedIn/Alan J. Stein. And the other piece of advice is Binghamton's not a school that is often targeted by these big tech companies. I've been pushing for it, but we don't usually target Binghamton as a school. But doesn't mean that you can't target those companies and build out the target list of companies that you want to work for, and figure out if you can reach out to individuals at those companies and start building out your network. Another piece of advice, this book called The 2-Hour Job Search by Steve Dalton, I think, is a good book. I think he underestimates that it takes more than 2 hours per week, but it's a good book about how to build out your network and think strategically about your target list of companies that you're targeting. So companies are not going to be coming up to Vestal to recruit, but doesn't mean that that talent is not sought after and appreciated. I think I've hired a couple of people at Google from Binghamton. The person who I don't know tons of people from Binghamton, because a lot of these companies are very West Coast based, and Binghamton alum, I think, tend to stay in the Northeast, the New York area. But all the companies will look at people that are have a good background and are proactive.
I have a question once again. Just for myself, I know I'm trying to go into more non-tech roles, so product management, things like that.
Product management's technical in a tech space.
Oh, true. Oh, I guess taking on a more non-tech role than that, I suppose. Because I do know some SQL, some Python, so I guess I'm trying to ramp up my skills in that to be more of a technical PM. But what would you say is a good foothold? Because it's very hard, like you said, like you deal with mainly people who have 5-20 years out of school. But I'm really trying to get in on the entry level. What would you say are some of the best spaces to enter? Because I know I've heard a lot of stories of like people being account managers, doing a lot of sales. That's the best way to like understand products. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, I think those are perfectly good roles to enter in on. I've also been involved in the tech support space for a while. So if you can resolve technical issues of customers, and you don't need to be technical per se, you need to be able to understand how to read documentation and troubleshoot. I've seen lots of people come in that way and then expand their careers through that method. I would look at some of the companies that you're interested in and look for some junior level roles and look for what the job requirements say, and pay attention more to the job requirements that are sometimes companies will say requirements and preferred. Look more at the requirements and also look more towards the top of the list because those are probably the more important ones. And also realize that if you hit all those, doesn't mean that you're going to get that job. But if you start to see patterns of, on the sales side, it will probably be product knowledge. So you'll have to do some research on the product before you interview, and customer facing capabilities. So get involved with sales is a great job to have in your life anyway. So you're like getting a job is selling yourself. So sales is a good skill to have, whatever you do.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
We have time for one more question.
Okay, well, Sonali needs a
Quiet.
better battery or a plug.
Is there one takeaway, Alan, you'd like to share with the students before we hop off? Or point?
Enjoy your college experience. I know it's got to be a little unique with the pandemic and all that. Take advantage where you can, and if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. There's lots, like LinkedIn is a very helpful resource. So start perusing there and seeing what's interesting to you, and seeing what areas are intriguing.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Alan, for spending an hour with us and sharing your story. And thank you, students, for hopping on. I know another hour out of your day is a lot. So on behalf of the alumni office and Fleischman, thank you. And if any of you have any alumni that you've heard of that you would like to hear from, feel free to reach out. My name is Kenley Peak. I'm the assistant director in the alumni office. So we're always looking for different people to bring back to the institution to talk to you. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Alan. Appreciate it.
Go
Thank you.
Bearcats. Bye.
Bye, Alan.